Okay, so welcome to this episode of The Path Less Chosen, the podcast showing you the careers they don't teach you about in school. My name's Sol.
I'm Jamie.
And today we have Nick Pyne on. And Nick is what we describe as a serial entrepreneur. I'm sure we'll get into the details of everything he's done, but currently he is flipping sofas and also has set up a sofa selling platform. So doing a load of different things, but I think he's going to be a super interesting guy to have on and chat about his whole journey into getting to something I don't think either of us have any idea about.
I think he's going to be a very unique guest. He's definitely not doing something that you dream about as a kid, but what he's doing is putting opportunities into practice and making good money from it. So it's something that in the reality of life, we're all going to have to do. So hopefully some fascinating lessons to be learned.
Perfect. Let's get him on. Thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. Why don't we kick off with finding out what you're up to right now? What are you doing?
So at the moment, it's still a bit all over the place. I mean, I've got my current business that I've ran for several years, which is called the One Stop Sofa Shop, which is effectively, it's a second-hand furniture shop, couch flipping, where you basically take used furniture, clean it up, refurbish it, etc., and then sell it back on again. I've been doing that for a few years. I'm now operating out of a warehouse, but I'm currently in another business at the moment called Marketplace Monitor, which is taking aspects of my one-stop sofa shop business, the sort of business model of that, which the business model is you need to have, basically with the one-stop sofa shop, you need to be able to source furniture, you need to be able to store furniture, and you need to be able to sell furniture. Now the sourcing part is really difficult, and this is where Marketplace Monitor comes into that. So I'm beginning to sort of transition into that with a few other business partners. So at the moment, just between both, I'm always willing to adapt and change. If I see a good opportunity, I'll jump on it. And I think that's important to do that. So I decided, right, I'm not going to go to uni. I really like cars, really like racing, all this kind of stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and be a mechanic. Now, bad decision, really, because it wasn't a bad decision because I wouldn't change it really, and I'm happy with the skills I gained from that. But I was a mechanic for 3 years at one of these big brands, and going through that period, you're in there as an apprentice, so you're getting treated like shit, effectively. You're going in there, I'm looking at the ladder, and I'm like, this ladder doesn't really look like one I want to climb in terms of what the opportunities. Well, I was sort of looking for them out. I mean, I would sit and work and I'd be fixing someone's car, but I'd just be sitting in with a podcast in my ear because I was like, I am learning, but I want to keep learning more. So I'd have podcasts about history, all sorts, just listening away. And then one day podcasts got banned. So I wasn't allowed to listen to podcasts anymore, and I was like, "This is just terrible." And I basically, we used to have to, as an apprentice, you would go to a training centre once a month for a week. And in this training centre, one day I was asked to go around the back and help a guy offload a car that was going to get resprayed at this training centre. Now, it just so happened this car was a race car, so I seen the guy there, and I was like, "This guy, I'm obsessed with racing, always have been," and I'd never had the connections to get involved. So I seen this guy and thought, right, I'm going to just pop a shot, speak to him, see what he's got to say. Turns out he ran a go-kart track about 15, 20 miles from where I live. And he was like, yeah, here's my email, here's my phone number, come down, give us a hand. So I used to go down there every Wednesday and help out with the juniors with their go-karting. And at the time I was driving an Abarth 595, and here I had an opportunity where I was like, right, I know I've got connections with go-karting, I know how much it costs, I know what I can do. So I just thought, right, sell the car. Who cares? I'd rather race, on the track, sell my car, buy a van, and race my go-kart. So I started to do that. Now, there were two things that then spurred the next decision, which was, one, go-karting is expensive. It's an expensive sport, and I'm an apprentice mechanic earning pretty much nothing. So that was a decision I had to make. And two, I'm driving a van 24/7, 365 days a year, and I'm maybe only using it once or twice a month to go to the track. So other than that, I'm just a white van man, and I'm not making money with the van. So I thought, right, why don't I just start trying to make a bit of money with this, which initially was like adverts on Gumtree. So I was putting adverts out on Gumtree, like man in a van removals. Another method of getting work that I would do is I would go on Facebook Marketplace and look for people selling couches and then saying pick up only in the ads. And then I would send them a message. I learned you can only send 30 messages a day or else you get banned. So I had to learn that. Started doing that, done that for about a year, working alongside being a mechanic. to the point where I was making more money doing removals than I was being an apprentice, which then led me to the point where my manager hated me. By the way, he hated me. He said my head was in the clouds, and I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about that. That's why he banned podcasts. So basically what happened then, I was phoning in sick to be like, right, guys, I can't come in, I've got a migraine, or I always had to have a new excuse, right? I can't come in, I've got this or this or this. And I was going out and doing removal jobs instead. And then I remember the day I finally didn't graduate, but I finished my apprenticeship. I had my qualification, I'm officially a mechanic. I got sent for a meeting in the office, and I thought, oh, it might be a congratulations, it might be this, it might be that. And it was a sit down, being like, basically, you need to get your act together, or else we don't want you here, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what, you don't what you're going to sack me today? And they were like, well, if you don't get your act together, we're going to sack you. And I just sat back and I was like, all right. And I said, well, if you sack me, can I just leave then? And they were like, yeah, you just go. I was like, right, cool. So I just stood up, left. I just pulled a car in. I think it was a Vauxhall Corsa I was doing brakes on. I was so happy I didn't have to do brakes on it. I was like, right, there's a job card. Locked up my toolbox and then went home. And then my mum and dad were a bit surprised when I told them that I just quit. And I said, just trust me, just give me a year. Just trust me. I had a conversation with them. So I just said, trust me, give me a year. I'd done removals from that point on. Now, initially, there was a bit of I think for the first year or 2 years, I had a bit of a lack of focus in the way that I was enjoying the freedom of just not having to answer to anyone. So I would have like a really good week or a couple of weeks, and then I would maybe like put my foot off the gas a bit and enjoy myself, which I do regret doing to an extent. Then from that point, I would get clients. I was building up a client base. I was building up commercial clients, domestic clients. Things were going quite well, but there wasn't really a scalability there. And I wasn't really conscious of that at the time. I was just trying to make money as well. And at one point, I had a client that owned a pub. And when I was at this pub, they wanted me to take away some old bric-a-brac from the pub. They were just basically doing a refurb, but they had some old Chesterfield couches. Now, I was delivering couches for people every day for 50, 60 quid per couch, right? And I didn't think, again, I don't know how it didn't click. But then when this pub gave me these old couches, I looked at them and thought, these are actually decent nick. I probably could sell these. So I was lucky enough, my parents had a double garage, took the couches back to the double garage and got nice photographs. Photographs are so important when it comes to relisting furniture or anything, cars. So got photos of the couches, listed them up for sale for, I don't know, about £200 or something. And they literally sold within like an hour, maybe. And I thought, wow, not only can I sell this for profit, and I can now deliver it and charge a delivery fee that I was already charging before. And I was like, this is awesome. So then I started doing that for a while, alongside the removals, to the point where I was like, I'm actually going to make far more money just by selling couches. And then that's when I really started to sort of delve into that. COVID was a bit of a hiccup, as it was for everyone, really, right? But yeah, done that for a while. Got to the point where I was like, right, this garage is limited for space. So I found a warehouse through a client that I'd had through removals. Moved into the warehouse, got a business partner. The business partner linked me up with Jack, who's obviously with Marketplace Monitor. And then from speaking to Jack, we spoke about the issues I had with sourcing, and then we began to develop this tool, this program, which is now obviously grown arms and legs and becoming quite successful venture so far. So that's basically where I've started from and where I've got to. Again, it's a bit all over the place. It never really makes sense, but it just goes. It just happens.
I think what makes you unique from some of the other guests we've spoken to is a lot of them, when we ask them, like, how did it begin? They go into talking about they had a passion as a younger person, and then they turn that passion into something as a career. And I imagine, I don't know you as a child, but I imagine you weren't thinking, I can sell sofas for a living. Like, that's my dream as a kid. Like, I don't think kids think like that. So that's what I was going to ask next is, how do you weigh up then this passion versus the opportunity?
Yeah, my passion, I'd say, is freedom. I love the idea of being free to do it and say as I please. You're somewhat limited, when you're working for someone or when you're sort of constrained to that. Couches, you're right. I wasn't 5 years old thinking, Mum, I want to sell couches. Yeah. I couldn't care less about couches back then. Now, I tell you, I can't even watch a movie now without noticing a couch in the movie. That's quite a nice couch, right? So it sort of has become a passion to that extent, because I do notice them. But it's like anything. Like at the moment, we're trying to refine this product for all kind of markets, right? Phones, bikes, tables, etc. And each time I look at a new market, I'm like, I don't really understand that. I don't really understand that. But I remember when I started with the couches, I didn't know what a good couch was and what a bad couch was. And now I'd pretty much say I'm an expert. Like, I really understand, you know, I can tell you the name of a couch, the brand of a couch, and that's only been off of a few years. And again, when you see an opportunity, it motivates you, right? When you see an opportunity and you've got the foresight to know what are the potentials with this, how much can it make me, then that really spurs you on. I do have passions in life. They mostly revolve around sport. And unless you can devote all your life to sport, you're not really going to make money from it. So in order to play sport and enjoy sport, you need to have another means to earn. And if you can do that through something that gives you freedom as well, then it's a win-win to me.
How do you go from seeing that opportunity, and then how do you turn that into a genuine business model or a way to make money, as opposed to just being like, oh, there's a resell?
One thing I think is, if you say you're going to do something, especially to a number of people, I like to think you're committed to doing it. One thing, my pet peeve, is someone coming to you on the Monday and saying, oh, I'm going to start this diet, or oh, I'm going to do this, and then a week later they're sitting eating like a Big Mac. You know, I think if you put something out there and say something to someone, you have somewhat of an accountability to go and at least try it. But a lot of it just came like, it's very sort of blasé, like, just, do you want to try and do this? Let's try and do this. And you do one or two, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy the just being in there and trying to do stuff. If you have an idea, I just think, just try it. Just go and do it. There's no reason why not. Even if I say I'm going to do something, I might not act on it straight away. But when I've first said I'm going to do something, it will usually stick in my mind for a few months, to the point where one day I'm just like, yeah, let's try it. Let's just go do it. When I sold my first couch, I had no idea how much it was worth. You just learn. And even pricing removals jobs way back, you know, I just guessed, you know, and then you end up working at what's a fair price, what people aren't willing to pay, you know. So with couches, you know, I got that first one in and I listed it for 200 and it sold within an hour. And I thought, oh man, I probably underpriced that one. But then you can get another one in and you put it up for sale and it doesn't sell for over a week. So you think, oh, maybe I overpriced that one. And then it's almost just like a trial and error on that point. When it comes to business, you know, sort of calculating what the profitability could be, I just look at it. Like, I used to think, right, okay, if I get one extra couch in a week and I make £200 profit on a couch, that's an extra £800 a month, right? So if I do two extra a week, that's this. And if I do this, you just work it out like that. And then I think of like a target of how much I'm happy to sort of earn in a period of time. And I think, okay, well, that's my target. That's what I need to do to achieve that target. I know that I can do X amount in 1 week, and I'm not exactly like sweating with the amount of work I'm putting in. Like, that's such an easy target. So then I'll just go and do it. I wouldn't advise my approach on things, really, because I'm a bit here and there, genuinely quite here and there with things. So I think it's good if you do have a sort of way of working like that. You just need maybe some teammates as well that are in the same sort of realm, because I think you need a bit of a yin and a yang. You maybe need someone that plans ahead, someone that's thinking about the bigger picture, making sure all the kinks are ironed out, and then you need someone that's just willing to just get in there and just start doing it, because then you can keep yourself right. Because if you're always thinking, oh, how are we going to get here and here and here, you're not actually thinking about how it's going to be implemented today. You don't actually move quickly enough. If you've got someone who's just sitting being, how are we making money today? How are we doing this today? How are we doing this today? You don't ever really see the bigger picture. So I think you need a bit of both that can have the foresight and also the wherewithal to realise what is going on today. You have good weeks, bad weeks, good days, bad days. Some weeks where you're sitting thinking, oh man, like, have I done the right thing here? Or,
Yeah.
you know, for example, I lost my licence last year.
Oh.
And I had a period of time where I was sitting thinking, like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go next? And one of my one of my mantras is, whatever's going on today, if you've got a really big problem today, think about, is it going to be affecting your day-to-day life this time next year? Right? In a year's time, are you going to be worried about this? And 99.9% of the time, the answer is no. A lot of issues you face are only going to be issues for a week or a month. And then after 2 months, they become an experience. And I've had so many experiences like that, where I've maybe been in a situation where things have been really tough, or there seems to be like I'm in a real pit and there's no way of coming out. And after a couple of months, you're out the other side of it and you look back on it. And in fact, it's a benefit that it happened, because the amount you learn from those periods actually spur you on in the good periods, because you don't want to get back there. I think if you go through life and you never really go through any sort of downs or hardships, it's really hard to have that perspective to sort of value where you are when you're in the good periods, rather than being like peaks and troughs in terms of work rate. It's really important, I think, to just try and keep consistent. You're not always going to be able to work up here, but as long as you don't dip below your sort of, your sort of strong line here, you should be good to go. But I think I just shook that off over time, because as you get older, you begin again have perspective on, where are you actually going here? What do you want to do? What do you want in your life? Do you want to get married, have kids, all this kind of stuff? And that's kind of like, for me, that's something that motivates me. And also, there is more to life than freedom, although I do really value freedom. It was just more sort of me thinking, I want to actually do something with myself. I want to go somewhere, and that's a good motivator to try and keep your work rate high. A lot of it's just sort of valuing yourself as a person. Like, you want to get to a situation in life where you can look back and say, look what I've achieved. You have the freedom. You want to be able to say you've achieved something. Again, I think it was just maturing to the point where, like, okay, let's actually do some work. Let's actually, be disciplined and start making progress. I notice there's a lot of people that will sort of do this. Like, you can be stuck in a 9 to 5, and the progress you make as an entrepreneur over the course of a year can be exponential, right? Depending on what you put in. You can be the most devout employee in a company, and you maybe get like a 5% pay rise, right? But as an entrepreneur, if you put 100% in every single day for a year, there's no way you're not in an exponentially better position. So I've noticed that the more you're sort of consistent, when you look back after a year, like, wow, I've really made a lot of progress. Once you see it, for me as well, like, once you start seeing results, then it is obviously a good motivator to keep pushing.
It feels like you've actually gone for some niche markets, you've got opportunities, and you've diversified what you're doing. How do you weigh that up against building one and focusing on it versus building up plenty and getting experience in all these different industries?
I guess it would depend on the person, right? What they want to devote their time to. Again, I wasn't passionate about removals. I wasn't passionate about couches. And there's a limit on how much you can do as an individual in those industries, in those markets. So something, for example, like the sub crawl, that was just a random idea I had. I mean, I'd an Airbnb, and I noticed on Airbnb you had a thing called Airbnb experiences. And Airbnb experiences, I looked on that, I was like, what's Airbnb experiences? And it was like people that were doing like walking tours of Glasgow, or ghost tours of Glasgow, or whiskey tasting. And I just thought, right, all right, okay. And then I know that in Glasgow, one of the most famous things in Glasgow is sort of a rite of passage here is the sub crawl.
Right.
So in Glasgow we have the subway, and I know a lot about it now because I've had to learn about it. But it's basically a ring subway system, underground system. It's basically in a perfect ring. So if you can stay on it, and it will take you right back to the start. And the sub crawl means there's 15 stops. So you start at one stop, go to a pub, have a pint, pub crawl, onto the subway. Next stop, off, have a pint, back onto the subway. And then if you can complete the subway, that's an achievement. No one can complete. Well, people can complete it, but it's nearly impossible without ending up on your arse. Yeah. Or on the tracks. So I just thought, I was like, is there any sub crawls here? And I seen no sub crawls, and I thought, I don't know. I just thought, that's a decent idea. Like, why don't I just sort of start advertising the sub crawl on Airbnb? I was seeing the prices people were paying. People were charging like 50 quid for a walking tour of Glasgow. I'm like, come on, like, a sub crawl is far more fun than that, right? So I thought, right, 50 quid, if I charge £50 a person and I get a party of 8 people, and you're taking them out for 4 hours, like, that's pretty good. It's pretty good turnover on that. So I just advertised it. I said, I'll buy your tickets for the subway, which is like £3 a person roughly. I'm not going to cover the drinks because, there's a lot of drinks to be had in that period of time. So I just started advertising that, and then sure enough, people, when they book an Airbnb will then recommend them. It's free marketing. You don't pay a penny to go on there. It's literally free. You don't pay a penny. So someone books an Airbnb in Glasgow, and it will say, here's some experiences. And sure enough, people start coming in. And, in the summer especially, I don't like doing it in the winter because it's freezing. But in the summer, I'll just go out on like a Thursday, Friday night. And I'll start off, meet the guests, say, this is what's going to happen. If they have any questions, I'll be on Google straight away and finding out the answer for them, maybe in the bathroom so they don't know. And then, we just take them out there, and it's brilliant for me. Like, It's usually Americans. I get a lot of Americans who are just in awe of Glasgow. Just is what it is. Yeah, they tip very well. Always give a tip. I actually feel like I get they buy all my drinks for me as well, so I usually don't even pay a penny when I go out there. But that's good fun. But just back to what you were saying about how do you balance that alongside something like removals, well, or selling couches. They operate in different times of the day, really. They operate in different times of the day, maybe different times of the week. If you've got a free schedule, I don't really see that I have weekends. I'll just sort of work if there's something that needs to be done on a certain time. I'll book that into my calendar and I'll get it done. So I think there's enough hours in the day where you can run multiple and still give them, quite a lot of attention. But yeah, I mean, it's just another one where I thought, like, that's just an opportunity, 4 hours of my day, and it's what, £400 or something like that. It's a no-brainer for me. It's a no-brainer.
Is there anything in you that you did? Is there anything that you tell yourself that gives you that confidence just to rock up with a load of Americans who are probably going to ask some very in-depth questions about Glasgow, especially when
maybe just have a beer. Maybe just have a beer before. Genuinely, just have a beer before. That's what I do. I'll have a beer before, and then I'll feel all right. I'll be like, right, cool. Go and meet them. Hi, how's it going? Oh, what's your name? George, Jeff. Nice to meet you. Let's go to the first pub. An icebreaker. You need to have an icebreaker. So one of the icebreakers I do is I'll go into the pub and say, right, who do we think is going to get the most drunk tonight? And he'll be like, oh, Jeff's going to get more drunk, and Laura's going to get more drunk, and whoever gets the most votes, I'll be like, right, I'll be back in a minute. I'll go buy a tequila shot and then give them a tequila shot.
Yeah,
and just little icebreakers like that. But honestly, it's just I don't know. I just think just go into something, just do something. The biggest thing to me that stops people from actually acting on an impulse or a thought is the thought itself. Like, as soon as you're in there and you can't dwell on it, as soon as you're literally there in the moment, there's no time to dwell on what if you're doing it. It's happening. And 9 times out of 10, it's nowhere near as bad. 9.9 times out of 10, it's nowhere near as bad as your mind can make it out to be.
Do you think, though, it's important at some point you're going to have to say no to things, because it's obviously incredible the stuff you're doing in different areas, but is there a risk that you might, on Thursday, Friday night, if you're out at pub crawl or the sub crawl, whilst you might have requests for sofas and different areas of the businesses, do you think there's a point where you're going to have to say, I need to prioritize certain things?
Yeah, of course. So through being an entrepreneur in businesses, you come across opportunities all the time. You do come across opportunities all the time, and that's brilliant. But you're right. If you sit and take every potential opportunity, you can stretch yourself a bit thin, and you might lose out on others.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to value certain opportunities and know the value in them and what the potential is. So currently, the next venture that I'm working on is Marketplace Monitor, and I see there's a massive opportunity for this. So I've actually scaled down my current business by about 50% to the point where it's paying my bills and it's giving me a decent standard of living. But I'm not making any money from Marketplace Monitor just now, because it's just a case of like reinvesting it all. But I'm giving that 110% every single day because I see the potential in it. I see there's a lot of potential in it.
So you say the potential, and I think this is just the theme of everything you talk about, right? Explain to me exactly what you saw. Like, how do you see these potentials? Because you're looking at things. I think Jamie and I would look at them and go, that looks cool. And you're going, I see the potential. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to scale it. All these things, right? What is potential? What do you see there?
I've seen the potential in it because in my day-to-day business, one of the biggest issues that I have is sourcing furniture, sourcing couches, right? You're maybe lucky if you get 1 or 2 a day. Now, there's several reasons for that. One of the reasons is Facebook's algorithm hates resellers, right? So it shows you loads of spam listings. It shows you all the same listings. It doesn't show you new listings. It's very, very hard to sort listings from newest to old. So you can't see the newest listings. So that was one thing for me that I've always thought, if I had a tool that could find the newest listings for me on Facebook and Gumtree and notify me when they become available, that would like put me miles ahead of the competition, right? That was the first thing. I'd thought of that before. So when I had a chat with Jack and found out that we had the possibility to make this happen, I thought, wow, that's, I'm not the only person in this boat. There's quite a big market for it, quite a big industry for furniture reselling, especially in America. So when I seen that opportunity, I thought that there, is very valuable in terms of like, it's very scalable, right? Because it's not only can it be applied to couches, it can be applied to cars, it can be applied to phones, all sorts. So I thought, wow, let's go down that avenue. And then as we developed it, I really developed it around my needs and what I needed it for. And one of the big moments when I seen it as an opportunity there is when I started to test it, my numbers, so my pre-marketplace monitor numbers, and then the first month of testing, my turnover doubled because I was using this tool.
Wow.
Actually doubled overnight. And again, that what else do you need to see an opportunity in that? Like, if that's doubling my numbers, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world, tens of thousands of people around the world that are going to be in a similar market to myself, and we can double their numbers. There's an opportunity there. And another thing, it just the tool itself, it gave me an edge, not just on competitors, but we're competing against the general public too. Like 99.9% of my competition is the general public. Now they're not going to be using this tool, so as a business, you've now got an edge on 99.9% of the market, even if you do have a few other resellers in your area. It's just when you see how excited other people get about it, it really kind of spurs you on to think, well, we're on to something good here. We're on to something good.
What does your day today look like with the growing of this project?
So I typically say my day looks like wake up in the morning. I'll always make a to-do list for the next day, the night before, which is a real way to get you out of bed, I think, when you know you've got things to do. So I'll get out of bed. If I've got any inquiries to get back to, whether it's couches or marketplace monitor, I'll get back to them. If it's a pickup day, I'll go and grab some pickups for my warehouse, get photographs, play a bit of darts in the warehouse, leave again. Then I'll sit down. We have a Trello for marketplace monitor, so I'll have tasks on that. I'll work through my tasks on that. I'll maybe contact some of our affiliates, making sure everything's okay. Contact some of our trialists, making sure they're enjoying the trial. Just keeping the ball moving with that. Keeping the ball moving, like I said, with the guys in America, you can be up till all hours trying to get it sorted. But again, when I'm hearing back from clients, being like, wow, my numbers are going through the roof now, or this is a really, really good product, that really, really excites me and motivates me to be like, good, like let's improve this for you. Let's make this product something that's really, really going to help you. So I don't get burnt out with it, really, I wouldn't say, but it's almost 24/7 at the moment. It's almost 24/7. I think if this goes well, the scalability of it, the potential of it, is massive. So again, I can kill my darlings, really. Like I'm not attached to anything by the hip. I like to move. I'm quite flexible, and if I see a better opportunity, I will move to that opportunity. So I think with the scalability of this, it's far more scalable than a sort of in-person customer-facing business where I'm having to be a one-man band almost and be here and here and here. If this was to go tits up, I've got fallbacks anyway that I'm currently working on. I know they work. I know the model works. I also think that in any situation. So I had another company at one point where I specialised in selling drinking products, bottle openers, decanters, all this kind of stuff. It didn't work out well, but I mean, just in that period of time for like 3 months that I'd done that, the amount of skills you learn in that really puts you in good stead for the next thing.
Moving on to our final question, what I'm looking forward to about hearing the answer to this question is that some people listening, a lot of them might be thinking, yeah, I'm going to go set up a business or whatever. It doesn't have to be in couches or it doesn't have to be in a subcrawl. But for anyone thinking about starting a business, I think your answers to this will resonate with them quite well. So going back to the start when this whole entrepreneurial path began, if there was one thing you could do the same, what would it be? One thing you could do differently, and then one thing you tell yourself to motivate yourself.
One thing I'd do the same is to stay flexible. Stay flexible. I'm happy. Like I could be stuck in my ways with certain things and said no to certain things. And who knows, I might be in a completely different position, but I can only go off of where I am now. And where I am now, I'm thinking, I'm quite happy where things are going.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is down to being flexible. If you think about it, right, from a mechanic to some software sourcing secondhand furniture, like there's the chalk and cheese. And I think that's partially down to being quite flexible with what opportunities you're willing to take, and you're willing to sort of a chameleon and move and mold into different markets when needed.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. One thing that I would possibly change would be just the sort of procrastination early doors. I think I probably wasted a lot of time in the first few years, and I didn't push myself as much as I probably should have, which has possibly staggered my progress. And a way to motivate myself, I would just say again, be persistent. I mean, persistence is key. Like I can look, and I enjoy doing it. As I'll always look and see after 6 months, like what was I doing, what numbers was I doing 6 months ago, what numbers am I doing now, or where was I 3 years ago, where am I now? And there's been so many opportunities where I could have turned around and been like, right, I'm done. I'm going to go back to this, or I'm going to go back to 9 to 5 or this. And there's always been something that says, no, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And that persistence moving forward with things will always give you results in the long run. If you can look back in a year, 2 years, you'll always be able to look back and say, wow, I've actually came quite far. Maybe not even in a financial sense, but just in terms of what you've learned in that period of time. I've learned so much more on my own than I would have by turning up somewhere at 9 o'clock and clocking out at 5 o'clock and sitting and watching the telly. You don't learn doing that. I don't think you learn doing that. You learn from how am I going to make money today, or how am I going to do this, or this is a bad month, I need to pay this bill, or I need to do this. Like, this is when you start to learn and adapt and really become like almost like a jack of all trades of life, of being able to
Thank you
adapt
so
to
much
things.
for coming on. Really appreciate the time. It's been fascinating listening to you.
You can just tell, look, wherever you end up doing and you couldn't possibly predict it, it's going to end up being pretty good. So whether it's in thinking pints and tequila shots or flipping cups, it's going to be pretty good. And
no, cheers lads. I know, I mentioned rambling before. I may have rambled a bit here and there. I hope it translates well through the podcast.
Nice. I thought that was some really good perspectives on the business world. I've learned lots in terms of like entrepreneurial side of things. The first one I wanted to throw out there, which was a common theme throughout, was just the pure ability to be flexible, literally adapt and change and pick up on any opportunity. It doesn't matter what it was, whether it was a pub crawl, whether it was a new sofa that he could sell for a bit of profit. He was happy to tackle it.
I think that's spot on. Some people turn their nose up at certain opportunities, and the things that he's got from just saying he'll go right to living back with his parents during COVID, all the way to like a few months later having his own warehouse. Like, it wouldn't have happened had he not like completely changed. So he almost didn't even mention it, but it was one of my takeaways of the way he spoke, is that he has a very inquisitive mind, and he always asks more than the like surface. So every time, all the things he's done have come from asking more about how do you actually sell that car, or all the sofas he's talked about is like, how do you actually go about moving those sofas around?
I quite like the takeaways that we pick up when they don't explicitly teach it as like a message they want to bring across, but you can tell by the way they think. The way his mind works, I think, is really impressive. So people that are looking to go down some kind of entrepreneur route start thinking about how they can program their mind to think in that kind of way. I think it's a great takeaway for them.
Yeah, and just be very specific on that mind, just so we have a specific takeaways. I think like it's that curiosity and asking questions about everything around you helps you to be like to have opportunities. And sometimes you'll be barking down the complete wrong tree, but sometimes it's going to lead to something.
I'll propose the final one then. In general, he spoke so like nonchalantly about like risks and failures and things like that. Like he walked away from jobs and he was happy to be sacked from one. And he just walked away. And I think the best message he put across that kind of summarizes his attitude towards that is how he puts his problems and his worries into perspective. And he said, if you're not going to worry about it in a year's time, what's the point in worrying now? And I think whether it's business or any path you're going down, it's actually such a good message to have and to live by, because there is no point worrying about certain things. So why do it? It's a waste of time.
I'm going to throw one more quote at you that he said on that topic, which is that an issue 2 months down the line is an experience. And I was like, that is spot on. So yeah, agreed.
So I think to summarize then, the first one was the ability to be flexible and tackle any opportunity, no matter what it is. The second one was to have that inquisitive mind and the curiosity to actually go further into things than most people would. And then the third one is embracing failure by putting any kind of problems or worries you have about it into perspective and not worrying about it if you don't need to.
Spot on. Okay. Well then, as you sum that up, I guess I'm doing the like, follow, subscribe, share, interact, follow me on TikTok, all that sort of thing.
Nice. Pleasure as always. See you later.
Cool.